If you can see it, you can be it. Now a lot of girls my age are being able to, there's a lot more opportunities for them to see who they can be.
Welcome to episode 178 of Alberta Dugout Stories, the podcast. I'm Joe McFarland. Cassie Matlock has been willing to do anything and go anywhere to play the game of softball. Growing up in Edmonton, there weren't a ton of options available to her, so she went wherever she could get noticed. Eventually, Matlock landed on her feet at Lindsey Wilson College, where her team made it to the NAIA World Series, and she was named to the all-tournament team amongst a host of other honors. She then moved on to the University of West Alabama, where she continued to dominate. The 5'9" outfielder just put the wraps on her senior season and is on her way back to Alberta. We caught up with Matlock earlier this week to talk about her award-winning season, the trials and tribulations of being a student athlete, and her hopes of helping grow the game in her home province.
Cassie, thanks so much for joining us here on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
What a year it was for you at University of West Alabama. Let me look at the stats here. 432, 3 homers, 37 RBI. Really just putting an exclamation point on some great seasons there. How did you feel about the season that you had?
Oh, man. I mean, it's been such a journey, like getting to where I am right now, that this year has kind of put the icing on the cake for me. I didn't, in the middle of the season, didn't really realize the trend that I was on, and it felt like a lot more of a struggle than it turned out to be. And, stats wise, I thought I was doing maybe a little bit worse than I ended up, but it was just a really, really neat way to end my college career.
To put a nice bookend on all of it, you had a couple of accolades as well. Most outstanding player in GSC postseason tournament and first team All-South region player as well. What did it mean to you to get that kind of recognition?
Growing up playing softball, with softball not being a high school sport, in the States, that's everybody plays high school softball. That's kind of our travel ball is their high school. And a lot of the people that I grew up with didn't really, they had hockey or, baseball, or there was a lot more recognition there. And so I never felt like I was getting taken seriously growing up. And, in the softball community, there are a lot of really supportive people. And so it's been really nice to kind of see all the hard work and all the support that they've given me kind of show up in those accolades in a way that's, more tangible, where people can really recognize what goes into playing. And, even just being a student athlete, it's a lot more hard work than I think people can see sometimes.
I want to get into the student athlete part in a second, but let's keep focused on the team here for a minute. And obviously the season comes to an end a little sooner than maybe you had all hoped. As a team, how did you feel about the season?
It didn't, like you said, didn't turn out exactly the way we had wanted it to. I think we had an endless amount of talent. It was really cool to see, all the people come together and be a part of a team. And, nobody thought that we would make it as far as we did to begin with, coming off a couple bad seasons. And, just the trend of how West Alabama softball has performed in the past couple of years has not been what we were expected to do, or even just has not been as good. So to see us come, we barely made it into the conference tournament, coming in 7th. And we played a lot of really tough games throughout the season, a lot of tough series. West Florida, Auburn, Montgomery, UAH, University of Alabama at Huntsville, they were all really tough teams. I know that AUM and Valdosta were nationally ranked, and we didn't play Valdosta in the season, but the other ranked teams we played during conference, and we got swept in some series where we had extra inning games and we out hit the teams and we did really well, but things just, we wouldn't have any ball luck, or, things just wouldn't come together for us. Say we would have really good pitching and really good hitting, but our defense just couldn't hold it together. That a lot of that stuff kind of happened to us during conference. So coming into the conference tournament, it was awesome to see. We played the number 7 ranked team, we were the number 7 ranked team playing number 2, Valdosta. And they, like I said, they were nationally ranked. So coming out of that game with a win was amazing. I mean, it was really awesome to start the ball rolling. I really thought after that game, you know what, we're going to win it. We're going to make it to regionals, and that would be awesome. But especially after we beat Montevallo in our second game of the tournament too, it was just like, this is it. Our team is going to do great. So it was an awesome way to start the tournament, and nobody ever believed that we would make it as far as we did. And we unfortunately lost 2 games to Auburn Montgomery. They had given us a hard time all season too. So it was kind of a devastating loss, but I wouldn't have expected a better year from us, going into the tournament. Like, that was not, especially going into the tournament, we got swept. Did we get swept by UAH? I can't remember, but we lost a couple games at UAH going into the tournament. So I never expected us to do as well as we did. And it was just amazing to see our team come together and to play for, a team that never gives up. And it was a really awesome way to end the season, despite having those losses.
Mm-hmm. I was reading an article about how the tone of the team and a new path has been forged through this season, the last couple of seasons, particularly on a personal level. What's it meant to you to be a part of that changing of the guard and allowing that team to maybe turn things around?
Oh, it's been awesome. I mean, I think I've gone through a lot of growth personally through this past year. I had a lot of struggles outside of softball, and just being a part of a team that was really supportive. And, we started to, it was really nice for me to be able to invest more into the team than athletically and physically. Like, I got to create a lot of really good friendships and connections with my teammates that were far better than, just athletics. And being able to grow myself as a leader in that respect was an awesome experience, and very privileged to be able to do that and to really grow myself more as a teammate than a player.
Mm-hmm. Did you learn anything about yourself, especially given that you turned from sort of that junior into a senior in what feels like a blink of an eye?
Oh, I learned so much. And especially our head coach, Stephanie DeFeo, she really helped teach a lot of us that a lot of that confidence that goes into, confidence is everything in softball and baseball and sports in general. And so she gave a lot of us that confidence of just knowing that we could win. We had such rough seasons before this, but we always had the talent. So it was just really nice to have somebody really cultivate that confidence. And me personally, like, I had a lot, I think it was really a mental struggle for me most of the year. And I learned a lot about how to deal with the mental side of the game. Personally, when I struggled, it was mostly because I became really problem focused. Like, I knew, especially being an outfielder, you make an error and, run score, and it's televised almost to such a big scale. So me learning to focus more so on the solutions than the problems became a huge difference maker for me. When I became problem focused, it was a lot of, say, hitting wise, it was like, oh, you're getting underneath the ball, like you're popping up, all that's, it's all negative connotations. And instead of focusing, okay, I'm going to see the top half of the ball, or I'm just going to focus on hitting the inside part of the ball or hitting the ball on the ground. Like, there are so many solutions to the problem. And once I started focusing on those, I was much more successful.
Now, where do you go? Where do you go from here? What's the plan going forward? I know you've been on a bit of a road tripping journey the last couple of weeks here.
So I just finished my first identification camp for the national team, for the women's national softball team. If I did well at that, they're going to reach out to us in a couple of days, and there's another tryout that hopefully I'll get invited to. But I still want to keep playing. I think that this sport has been such a big part of my life for so long that And I do have the opportunity to keep playing. So, why hang them up if I don't have to? Even if I don't get this opportunity with Team Canada right now, I'm playing with a senior team called the Calahoo Errands, and we're going to be hopefully competing for our third in a row national championship, and which would be really cool. If we win that championship, we'll be inducted into the Softball Canada Hall of Fame, which would be really, really neat. And, it's been awesome to play with those women too. I've played with them a couple of years, and I've played against them my entire life too. So just being part of the community is going to be hopefully really cool to stay involved. And also, as we were talking off air, I'm still coaching for the St. Albert Angels, and trying to hopefully pass on everything that I've learned and give other girls the opportunities that, I was lucky enough to have would be really awesome.
An absolute full plate so far, and to things to come. Let's turn the clock back a little bit and talk a little bit about growing up in the game, I guess, and growing up in Edmonton. Do you remember stepping onto the diamond for the first time when you first fell in love with the game, maybe?
Oh, gosh. I've been playing for a really long time. My dad was my first coach. I remember being around the sport a lot. He coached my siblings too. My brother played a little bit of baseball. He didn't really like it as much, went more the hockey route. And my sister as well, she ended up swimming in high school. So they both played growing up, but I was the only one who really stuck with it. And I don't remember my first time on the field. I mean, like I said, I've been playing forever, but I do remember the first time that I kind of had that spark of, oh, this is something that I'm really good at, and something that I can invest in, which, is not exactly how a 12-year-old thinks. But I remember I just really enjoyed being part of a team and playing with my friends. And there was another team that community team that was going to provincials, and we had not made provincials that year, and they had asked me to join them as a pickup for that tournament. And that was kind of the first time that I was like, oh man, like I've got some talent here, and it's just fun to keep playing with your friends, right? So and then I ended up, that coach that I went to provincials with, he ended up starting a not a community team, but a club team. And so I grew up playing with a couple of the girls on that club team. And then, we all grew up playing the sport together. And it's just something that I was really lucky to just keep having opportunities that through a lot of coaches who really believed in us. And we had one of the coaches that really helped. His name was Rob Campbell. He's part of the River City softball organization. And one of the biggest things I think that helped my development is he would invite American coaches and players to come up and run camps. And so every winter he would have 4 or 5 camps with a plethora of amazing coaches and players who would come up, who had played at the highest levels of softball. And so that's kind of where my spark grew from, is just being able to, I think my parents as well saw it in me and how much I loved it. And I just kept wanting to do it as much as I could. Right. So, thankfully through all those coaches and those camps, like that's where I really began to love the sport.
Did you have anyone, you mentioned some of the players that came up and were able to give you advice, and that were there any players that you grew up idolizing or worshiping, or were there teams that you were looking up to? Was it all baseball? Was it softball? Walk us through what lit that fire for you.
I think a lot of it was seeing all these coaches come up and show us like what they were able to do. Like I never realized that I could play in college until these players kept and coaches started coming up and showing us, what they did in their college careers. And I think, also being a kid who, we don't have a lot of women's sports on TV. I was a huge Blue Jays fan. So I remember in the Blue Jays 2016 run, I was a huge fan of Kevin Pillar, especially, right. Just seeing him with his amazing catches in the outfield. And also I remember one of the coaches who really helped helped me and encouraged me a lot. Her name was Larissa Franklin. She's an outfielder for Softball Canada. She's from BC, and she's super encouraging person and super positive, and always just like trying to grow the sport. And so she came up only a couple times, but she also kept investing in the sport through, gosh, I can't remember what the organization was, but she did a podcast about burnout in a time when I was in college, where I wasn't even sure if I was going to continue with my college career. It was COVID, actually, which was such a tough year, deciding if I was going to be away from home again during those circumstances. It was being able to reach out to her after she did this Zoom meeting about burnout. It was the perfect timing and kind of serendipity for me to have that encouragement to continue playing.
You mentioned the fact that you realized that, hey, I'm pretty good at this game. Do you remember the moment when you went, this is fun, to, hey, this is a dream I can chase? Like, what lit that spark for you to realize that, hey, there is a chance of you doing this in a U.S. college, for example?
I would say that probably I was playing for River City softball at the time. And, we would go down south to play in tournaments, like showcase tournaments, early in the year when it was, the snow hadn't melted up here. So we couldn't play here yet. So we would do big trips down to San Diego and Oregon and do some of those showcase tournaments, and just like seeing all the other girls who were there to get recruited and to play at a higher level. It was kind of eye-opening just to think and to play with them and feel like I belonged. So I think a couple of years after that, there was a camp in Sylvan Lake. There was a camp they do every year. It's usually for younger players, but they have a really good roster of coaches who come up there. And at the time, it was Jimmy Colitis was his name, and he was the assistant coach at University of Oregon. And so I worked with him that summer, and they invited me to a camp at the University of Oregon. So I ended up, I think that was in 10th grade for me. So I went down there. I think it was right after I think I took an exam. It was like a diploma exam I had taken because I did like a fast track social class. And so I took my diploma exam, and then we got on the road to Oregon. And so I went to this camp, and, it was an Oregon camp. So it was kind of a big deal. And seeing all the players who are my age and feeling like I could compete with them, I think was the moment where I realized that this was something I could really do. So that's kind of when I started my recruiting journey, I would say. After that camp, my dream was to go and play at Oregon. It was a beautiful city there. And of course, they're sponsored by Nike, because Oregon was where Nike started. So they had all of the facilities and the uniforms. And it was just like, I was shocked by everything and the opportunities that could come with that. So I think that's the moment where I really, realized that this is something I wanted to do.
On the flip side, you're still from Alberta, where, as you've mentioned, softball is not exactly the name of the game. Baseball, frankly, isn't really the name of the game, because everybody's focused on hockey or football, that kind of thing. How easy or how challenging was it for you to find teams to play on? I know, for example, you played in Lloydminster. I mean, you seem to be used to the road trips.
Oh, yeah. It was difficult. Getting recruited from Alberta was very, very hard. I ended up getting I think it's NCSA. They have a recruiting service. So I started, paid for that recruiting service. And I think that was where I got a lot of the information about, there were so many rules about how, like, when you're allowed to contact a coach, how you're allowed to contact a coach. If you're allowed to go talk to them in person, all those kind of things. And there's so many rules. So I think we were kind of floundering when it came to that. And so we decided to pay for that service. And so along with that, you were able to email all sorts of coaches, and they had a service that helped you learn how to write emails. And they really wanted us to have a recruit video and all sorts of things like that. So it was very difficult. I felt like a fish out of water, especially being in 10th grade. All of this big schools, the really competitive schools, which, I've always had a competitive fire in me. And especially with how much I love softball, I wanted to play at the highest level. But all those big schools, they recruit way early on, right? So all of those opportunities weren't really available for me. So, I just started sending out email after email after email through this recruiting service. And, I didn't really get much response. I ended up I think I talked to a couple schools that were Division III in New York, which, they couldn't give as much money and they were way more expensive because they're private schools. And I think the only real connection I found through that website was the University of Colorado, Mesa. And they, I really wanted to go there. They were a beautiful spot there in Boulder, Colorado. They were a Division II. They were recruiting me pretty well until later they had told me that I was a catcher at the time. I caught my entire life. And they told me that they had a Division I decommit from a school, that they were taking her instead. So they weren't going to be recruiting me anymore. So that was kind of heartbreaking. But I also had a connection, not through the website. One of my coaches, people knew people who knew people. Luckily, one of my coaches knew NAIA coach in Columbia, Kentucky, tiny little town, Lindsey Wilson College. But they were very competitive in the Mid-South Conference, which is where they were at. And I was lucky enough to still have that connection and decided that I would go for a visit, and pretty much decided right there that that's where I wanted to go, which was really, really thankful for that opportunity, because other than, those couple offers, I didn't have much to rely on. Especially, at Oregon, I think I may have been able to get recruited there, but it would have been more expensive to continue to go down to all those camps all the time. And I would have spent more money getting recruited than I would have got in a scholarship, more likely. So Lindsey Wilson was kind of the only place that really were willing to pay for me, right? And I was lucky enough to be able to go there and really enjoy my time there.
That's fantastic. And you actually segued really well into my next question, which was around Lindsey Wilson. You received a lot of accolades while you were there as well. When you look back on your time there, what stands out to you the most?
Oh my gosh, I made so many really good connections there. And really, I think going to an NAIA school, a small one, was the perfect route for me. And I'm really thankful that, honestly, that I didn't go to a great big school like Oregon, because at the end of the day, I got the chance to play, and I got the chance to play at a winning school, which is, not a lot of people can say their freshman year being a starting outfielder, which, first of all, I wasn't even an outfielder to begin with. I'd never had any professional training in the outfield or anything like that. So getting the opportunity to just play, and even my coach, he was a big believer in letting hitters hit. And, I hit from the left side. So growing up, a lot of times I had coaches who wanted me to slap, and I never felt as comfortable slapping as I did hitting, and never saw as much success slapping as I did hitting. So I was really happy to go somewhere where I could see a lot of the field. I got so many opportunities to play in, and to play a lot. And, we were one of the nicer fields in the Mid-South. So they have a continuing record of hosting regionals there. So my freshman year, I got to play in regionals, which was really, really neat. So just that opportunity to really be myself and learn through playing, I think was invaluable to me being where I am now.
And obviously the big question and big follow-up on that is about the catching to outfield swap that you decided to maybe was forced upon you. Walk us through that transition, and maybe how challenging or how easy it was for you, because it's a completely different viewpoint on the field.
Right. it was a whole journey, but I was always the player who, wherever you wanted me, like that's where I would be. Just hopefully not in the dirt unless it's behind the plate. I am not as comfortable there. I haven't played the infield since I was about 12, but there was just more opportunities for me there. And so actually coming out of high school, I made the junior national softball team. And it was the same kind of thing. There weren't as many opportunities for me behind the plate. And I think especially, I'm the kind of player who puts a lot of pressure on myself. So when I was behind the plate, I always wanted to be in control of everything. And, I would call my own games, and, I had that trust from my coaches, and it was, I played with some teammates who weren't the best. So it was, I put a lot of pressure on myself, and then they also put a lot of pressure on me. They weren't as good teammates. So it just, wasn't really good for my mental health, to be honest, being behind the plate. I was very anxious and very, very hard on myself. So especially, I still loved catching, and I still believe that I was very good at it. But when I went out for the junior national team, there were players who were better than me, and you're always going to be in a place where there's always going to be somebody better than you. There's always going to be somebody worse than you. So not comparing yourself to others was really hard for me, but it was a big learning curve, especially, I wanted to be part of Team Canada any way that I could. So when they told me to go to the outfield, I would go to the outfield. And so that was the first time that I had really been coached how to play in the outfield, was at the tryouts for Team Canada. And luckily I was athletic enough to make adjustments and to get better in a short amount of time. But I ended up being more so a role player on Team Canada than anything. I didn't play a lot of games, but I did my best to make sure that I was always useful. And if there wasn't a job for me, I would create a job for myself. I wasn't a catcher technically for the junior national team, but I caught everybody's bullpens. I warmed up everybody. If I was always ready to pinch run and do anything I could to make it on the field. So that kind of translated over to Lindsay Wilson. I was just a better outfielder too, taking that pressure away of not having to be in control of every pitch and in control of every, touching the ball in every play. It gave me a lot more freedom to really be myself on the field and to not have that pressure on myself. So it just was something that I ended up being good at. And there was another Canadian on the team. Her name is Callum Pilgrim. She was an alternate for Tokyo 2021-ish, 2020. But she was a great mentor to me in the outfield. I learned so much from her, and I learned so much from the coaches at Lindsay Wilson. So it was a really good opportunity, again, for me to just play and learn how to play in the outfield.
Very cool. You've received a lot of accolades over the course of your still young career. You've played in Canada Cups. You've done everything you've done to this point. Any favorite memories or moments or things that you're most proud of?
Oh gosh, there are so many. I have been very, very lucky in this sport to be involved with the teams that I have been. I would say that one of my favorites, I have a couple favorites. I would say winning nationals with the Calhoun Arons last time that we had nationals pre-COVID was an awesome experience. I had, Alberta, like I said, has never been super competitive in terms of, the people on the West Coast and the East Coast have a lot more opportunities to train throughout the winter. And, indoor, they train indoors in Ontario, and they train, they don't have snow in BC. So it was, growing up, I never had that opportunity to play on a number one team. So it was really awesome to do that. And then I would say from my college career, I think with Lindsay Wilson, we went to nationals my sophomore year, and we placed fifth of that tournament. And that team was just, we were a family, and it was really, really neat to make it that far. And, I felt like I was playing at the highest level. So it was really, really awesome to see. And even just to translate that to this year, we didn't make it nearly as far as I did with, with Lindsay Wilson. But my last at bat of my college career was an intentional walk. So it was kind of a neat way to cap off my softball career down south. I've never been intentionally walked in my life, but I think I was, I had 3 hits in that game, and I had 3 in the game before that against the same team. So it was really neat. That coach was very complimentary, and I had actually tried to go play for him before I ended up at West Alabama. So it was really kind of neat to be intentionally walked by the guy who didn't, want me to play for him, or didn't have the money for me. I'm sorry. But yeah, it was just a neat way to kind of wrap it all up.
Absolutely. Conversely, what's been the biggest obstacle? I know you've mentioned a couple already, but over the course of your career that maybe you've had to overcome to get to where you're at now?
Oh gosh. I would probably say that being away from home has been a huge obstacle. And especially like in a mental health aspect. I guess first or second year, I think it was my 3rd semester at West Alabama, I was diagnosed with ADHD. And it was a really hard transition to try. And it was a really good relief to realize that I was not, the problem. I'm not lazy. I'm not, all those kind of things that come with ADHD, but learning how to transition and to pick up my schoolwork as well as play at a really high level. And even I realized that my symptoms of ADHD translated a lot into my softball as well. So realizing how to manage that and learning how to cope with a lot of that stuff was a huge obstacle for me, especially I'm sure you've noticed in the student athlete hemisphere that there's a lot of issues with mental health going on right now. And there's so much strain being a student athlete. I think that was kind of the biggest obstacle, was just learning how to cope with everything, and learning, all those little skills of time management, and knowing what's important, learning that sleep is so important, and eating enough is so important, and all those little things kind of accumulate into a good performance as an athlete. That's been kind of the biggest obstacle, is that huge learning curve.
What's been key for you to be able to find that balance? Has there been a strategy or something that's really worked best for you?
For me, it's been teaching myself how to build my own schedule and routine. I know that a lot of coaches I've played for, I was lucky this year to have more structure, but in some years, and even if you've got tons of rain, if there's so many things that you can't control. And so your schedule is just all over the place. And a lot of times, like, not having control of that is really hard to balance and make sure that it's so hard to still have a social life and do well in school and be a good athlete. And I think that learning how to ask for help has been one of the biggest keys in letting me balance everything, and reaching out to my coaches, reaching out to my friends, and reaching out to my professors, creating really good relationships with them has created so many more opportunities for me to have some leeway here and there. When we're playing midweek games and I can't get an assignment in on time, or we have an exam that they're taking in class, but we're away at a trip. Like, there's so many of those things that just creating those relationships with other people and your coaches, your teammates, your professors makes such a huge difference. And like trying to help bear everybody's loads together really, really helps in that aspect.
Off air, you and I were talking a little bit about trying to grow the game a little bit. And from that standpoint, as you come back, you're thinking about doing the coaching thing again. You get to be that kind of mentor and talk to different people across the baseball and softball world here. What do you think is key to growing the game moving forward?
I think it's really just like you were saying earlier, if you can see it, you can be it. And now a lot of girls my age are being able to, there's a lot more opportunities for them to see who they can be. But at the same time, like being able to translate the skills that I didn't learn early to those girls, so that even when they realize that they have the confidence, or when they build that confidence to be able to say, yes, I'm good enough to do something like that, but to have the skills in order to continue being successful once they get there. So hopefully that's kind of the goal, is to be able to, communicate everything that I've learned there. And honestly, to think the biggest thing that I've learned about young athletes in Canada is giving them the confidence to be able to strive for the biggest goals that they can possibly have is the best way to really, help grow the game.
Fantastic. And a related question, it's one of two of the final ones that we always ask here, is you're going to be able to come home, offer that piece of advice or word of wisdom to the next generation, those 12, 13, 14-year-old girls who are looking to follow in your footsteps, perhaps. What is that piece of advice or that word of wisdom that you'd like to impart upon them?
Oh, gosh, that's a really good question. I think I've had so many little phrases here and there throughout my career. I'm trying to think this year, just like believing that you can do it, and believing like just at your core that you are good enough is, I think, super important for reaching whatever goal that you can achieve.
Fantastic. And final question, what does a game of softball mean to you?
Oh gosh, it means so much. And I think it just means like an open door. There are so many opportunities through sport in general. And I think it means relationships, it means growth, it means it's an open door to anything that you want to achieve. And I've learned so much through this sport that's not even related to the athletic side of it. And so I think that's the biggest thing, is it's taught me so many life skills. I've met so many people, and I have friendships that, on however many kilometers away, that I'm going to have for life. So it's been a great, great opportunity. I think that's what softball is for me.
Been a great opportunity to get to chat with you as well, Cassie. Congratulations on all the success you've had to this point, continued success going forward, and whatever is coming forward for you. And thank you again so much for joining us here on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks again to Cassie Matlock for joining us this week, and thanks to all of you for downloading and listening. If you haven't already, leave us a rating and review on your podcast app, as those actions help with our visibility on all of the different platforms. We'd also like to take a moment to thank our Platinum supporters for all they do for us and for the baseball community in Alberta. The Okotoks Dogs kick off the WCBL regular season May 27th at home to Brooks. They'll also be hosting the League All-Star Game later this summer. For more, head to dogsbaseball.ca. And AHP Academy has had a busy spring with games and tournaments turning heads with their performances, including a big win in Las Vegas. Go to ahpbaseball.com for all the details. Until next time, thank you for all your support on social, online, and on air of Alberta Dugout Stories.